isn't a robbery. Hands in the sky if you got a dream. Learn nothing was blocking me. I was the problem, the only one stopping me. I didn't like it, I had to refocus. Now I'm devoted, I know where I'm going. Controlling emotions, I'm owning the moment. In order to get it, see, you gotta want it. Don't make a living break. Confessions over these 808s. Don't sleep on the key, better stay away. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'ma be the best. Came from the endless, lane walk games, bitch with the chest. Beating on my chest, trying to get my rest. Watch me while I flex. Every win is a blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me. The chances are quite unlikely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes. Don't make excuses, they never excite me. Quitting was never an option.
We're here on the Split Second Broadcasting Network to bring you the Nekoworks designed World 360K at Las Vegas Motor Speedway with the online Speedway Racing League. My name is Snyder, joined along with Elliot Henderson. We also have Aiden DuPont on pit road, also joining us tonight. Get you caught up if you did miss the action last week. We went to Bristol, where we saw a dominating performance by Joe Armstrong. But most importantly, we did see a point swing. Can't wait to hear what Elliot has to say about this one. With Kendall Carpenter going into that Bristol race with the penalty that unfortunately he could not overcome and come back from at all. And Cole Freilich would go on to finish 4th, from Kendall Carpenter coming home in 19th, and Freilich enters tonight with a 12 points lead. And I want to hear your thoughts about this, Elliot. What are we going to be expecting here tonight here at Vegas?
Yeah, it's actually a 20-point lead, just to be specific on that, and it's going to create a little bit of drama and a little bit of chaos, I think, here moving forward. Obviously, Freilich now doesn't really need to take too many risks. He's got that nice little cushion, but it'll be interesting to see how he drives. And on the opposite side, how hard Kendall Carpenter wants to push, because now he's the one chasing, where he's been leading for most of the season after those first couple races. So. I think it'll be interesting to watch those two. But on top of everything, we've still got Joe Armstrong back on pole, obviously just coming off that dominating win. And a lot of the guys he's been racing, Brandon Movic is going to be starting up in the top 5. He won 2 weeks ago at Dover. And Steven Gibson, coming off his really solid finish at Bristol, is rolling off 4th. So a lot of different stories going on. Oh, not to mention 3rd place in points, William Schmidt out-qualified a bunch of those guys. He's going to start 2nd. So all our normal guys starting up front, normal guys that we talk about every week, and it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. But I'll also go over to Aiden, see what we're looking like for strategy tonight.
Well, I'm hearing that we got a 40 to 42 lap fuel run tonight, so I know that tire saving is going to be a big deal throughout this entire race. Throughout practice, drivers were looking a little loose on exit, so watch out for the car changing over the course of the night. We'll see how many people short pit. We'll see how many people go for the long run. I expect people go a little longer rather than shorter. And going to be some great battles all throughout the field. Online Speedway Racing League, you know that there's going to be fierce battles all the way from 1st all the way to 30th place.
Thank you very much, AD, who's going to be joining us on the pit road this entire race here at Vegas. And so you do see your starting grid kind of rolling down on the bottom of your screen there with Cole Freilich, who has our points leader at the moment. He's starting 11th here, Elliot. So like you mentioned already, he doesn't really have to take too many risks, but of course, you don't want that points lead that he has built up on Kendall Carpenter to kind of slip away from him. So if you are Freilich coming into this race, what are some things that you're trying to do to make sure that gap doesn't shrink at all for him?
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty simple. You want to just finish as close or ahead of Kendall Carpenter as you can. Unfortunately, Kendall's been fast this season, and I don't think it's something that Cole really anticipated. I'm sure Cole didn't come into the season thinking he was just going to run away with everything, but I think Kendall's definitely come on really strong with those multiple wins early on, and it's kind of caught Cole a bit off. But he was given a gift at Bristol. Kendall obviously started with a 2-lap penalty, and just the race went green for a while. When it didn't, there just were other cars a lap down, and Kendall could never really get his positioning back. He started about 30th and ended up about 19th. So For Freilich, who started up inside the top 10 and finished inside the top 5. It was kind of a nice little gift and gave him the points lead. But we'll have to see exactly how he combats that. Does he go out and try to win these races, or does he just does he run calmly, finish out his top 5s, and try to point him to death, as I usually like to say whenever you have long seasons like this. Obviously, no chase format, no playoff format, so he's just looking for the last 4 or 5 races here, just gonna close them out and manage that points lead. Looks like Joe Armstrong also picked the top lane here. That'll be interesting, as I believe they're going to take the green flag this time by. All right, Evan has been having some internet difficulties, so until he works that out, he's back.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Like you just mentioned earlier, been having some internet difficulties, but we're gonna make it work.
Well, the green's out, but Gibson is also around at the start here. I believe that top lane just kind of stacked up, and it was Armstrong that was on pole. He picked the top, and then I don't know if he missed a gear, just didn't really get rolling, but Gibson immediately got run over. I believe that was Sims behind him, and Gibson nowhere really to go. Spins off into the grass, and yellow flag to begin this one. Just not a clean start. We'll go ahead and watch that back. Nothing crazy, though. I don't think Gibson's really hurt, aside from obviously losing all of his track position, unfortunately, with a great starting position. But as you can see, it just at Joe either misses a gear, hits the rev limiter or something, and Gibson nowhere really to go, and they all just stack up. Gibson goes for a spin, and we'll stop it and get moving, and no other car involved.
Yeah, it's definitely not how you want to start your race there, Elliot. Wish I saw a little more in real time, but like you mentioned, I think might have just been a gear switch. We'll hop on board here. And yeah, I think he possibly just missed a gear there. That's what it seems like.
I am wondering, with the ARCA car, you can sometimes start in first gear at a lot of tracks, and it catches guys by surprise because we're so used to higher revving cars, and these cars do not rev very high. They're similar to the truck engine, where they rev out about 8,800, maybe 9,000. So it may have just caught Joe off, and unfortunately for Gibson, nowhere really to go. But I'm sure Joe will understand how to restart this time, and unfortunately, he's already lost 2 spots down in third, but we'll resack him and get him back going.
Yeah, hopefully not a bad omen to ensue these next laps or so. 150 laps here tonight around Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And most of the time when you start with a caution this early in the race, not what you want to see. But normally, drivers here at OSRL are very, very clean. Not too many cautions. Hopefully it's just a one-time thing there on the restarts.
Yeah, I think to Aiden's point, the bigger struggle is going to be just how loose these cars are. This track is very susceptible to just being really hot and making the rear tires just run through their paces all night long. So for these guys, it's going to be more managing those rears on corner exit and not trying to put too much throttle down. And I know I said ARCA car before. They're obviously in the Gen 4, so they do rev out pretty high in these cars, but that could be the difference. They, I believe, ran the ARCA car at Bristol. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but they go back and forth between which car they use on different tracks. So it may have just been that, and Joe wasn't exactly prepared for that situation. But they will, I'm sure, get it going again. And to Aiden's point, they're just gonna have to manage those rear tires from here, and hopefully that is our bigger issue. And we can at least get through some clean laps, as I believe lights will go out this time. We'll run one more lap around and get that green.
Yeah, like you said, unfortunate start there for Steven Gibson. Fell down all the way to 28th place, started 4th. And then William Schmidt will assume the lead, or will take over as our leader so far in this race. Still very, very early on. But of course, William Schmidt has had speed in that 79 machine pretty much all season long, and haven't really been able to compete too much with the likes of Cole Freilich and Kendall Carpenter. Has a little bit, especially on the road courses. That's where we saw William Schmidt thrive a good majority of the time. We have to wait, see if you can hang on to that lead. Of course, too, you want to make sure, like we've already been mentioning, managing your tires the best you can, because we are in the desert, so of course it helps with that track temperature getting up there.
No, and I think that is the frustrating thing for Schmidt too. Is we've been under caution for a bit longer than I anticipated we would be. Hopefully, we'll get it next time by. But Schmidt is coming in here 49 points behind Freilich, 29 behind Carpenter, and only 13 ahead of Steven Gibson. Who obviously just had that issue, so he'll at least lead a lap here and get some bonus points. But for Schmidt and Gibson, these guys, it's a little bit of a different game. You're kind of just running for third right now and hoping that the 20 and the 15 have some issues and hopefully gain you some extra points. But Schmidt obviously running up front, and like you said, he's run really good on the road courses. We haven't really seen him dominate intermediates and short tracks yet, and I'd be interested to see how he fares tonight. He ran pretty well at Bristol, but it'll be interesting to see how his tires hold up and how well he manages this race. Another guy to point out is Jackson Sims starting fourth here. We've run with him in the Great Lakes Racing League a good bit, and he's synonymous over there. So it'll be interesting to see. He's always been pretty good in the Gen 4. He ran really well in this series when we ran it in our league, and I'm interested to see how he runs tonight. Obviously, moved his way up to fourth, a little bit involved in that issue with Steven Gibson, but have to keep our eye on that 45 tonight as well.
Yeah, I seem to have a little bit of a damage on his nose from that, too. And to note, the lights on the pace car are out, so we will go green next time by. And for William Schmidt, too, you got to have a huge night here, as he's only 29 points back, and he's really close on Kendall Carpenter for jumping him for that second place spot in the championship as well. So he's going to try to put his head down and run away with this lead, hopefully on this restart. The car's coming out of turn 4 right now. Oh, pace car. Gonna dive onto pit road. And here we go, William Schmidt, Braden Movick in your front row here on this restart. And green flag, we're back racing here at Vegas.
Yeah, Schmidt gets a pretty good jump there, and Joe's immediately going to try to make up for his mistake. No, he actually slots in line, stays in third right behind Movick, and gets loose on entry. Joe Armstrong, a little bit different from what we saw him do at Bristol. He obviously took the lead in turn 1 and never really looked back after that point, but a little bit off tonight to start this one, and we'll have to see how he bounces back. William Schmidt will come around, lead this first green flag lap as we watch everyone else sail off of turn 4. Kendall Carpenter already making up a couple spots back there too.
Diving here into turn 1, coming out of 2 now, William Schmidt. Really good restart, like he mentioned there, Elliott. But one guy's starting to fall off a little bit. We already talked about him, that 45 truck. With Jackson Sims starting to fall back with Nolan Samford and Justin Knutson right on his bumper as they're throw a blanket on them as they come around to complete another lap here, Vegas. Excuse me.
I'm actually going to throw down to Aiden down on pit road. Kendall looks like he may have pitted. He lined up 26 there. Him and Gibson all the way back there. Was there a strategy call as Brandon Movack looks towards the lead? Did Carpenter decide to pit there for some strategy call, Aiden? Would you happen to know?
He was just repairing some damage, Elliot. He was the one who Steve Gibson turned across Kendall Carpenter's nose. So just coming down to fill up on gas, repair that damage. Gibson down to repair damage, fill up on gas. And a few others in the back of the pack also coming down for fuel. Back up to you guys.
We appreciate it. AD, we'll be hearing from him all night down there on pit road. You see Movick and William Schmidt duking it out as they're side by side going through turns 3 and 4. And of course, you got Joe Armstrong not too far behind him in that 22 machine. He's kind of hanging back at the moment. And then Knutson still trying to, actually just gets around Jackson Sims. And Knutson looking to bounce back after Bristol finished 14th in that race after starting 9th, but he's currently in the top 5 this very moment.
Yeah, I saw an orange car back there. That's Max Swarningen, and I'm not sure if this might be his first race of the season. He's back there in 4th, started 7th. Another orange car we're going to have to keep up with, very similar to Kendall Carpenter's look, and that's why I thought it was Carpenter moving up. But Carpenter, as you saw on your screen very briefly there, working with Gibson through traffic, running that top line right around 20th to 25th. As the lead is switched over, Braden Mavik has taken over from William Schmidt, and Joe Armstrong not too far behind, but it looks like Mavik has a pretty good handle on this situation right now.
And Mavik will come around and lead lap 11 as we got some side-by-side racing as we see the 20 of Kendall Carpenter try to work his way back through the pack. It's currently back there for about 23rd, 22nd position as he's fighting with Jonah Malashak to his outside. And then you got Steven Gibson, who was the unfortunate recipient of that first caution where we did see him spin out as he goes side by side with Kristen Perivalarkis to his outside as well in the 87 machine. So you come through turn 3 and 4. So good racing so far toward the back of this pack and middle of the pack here, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a good battle up for the lead as well, and it's not really over. Schmidt just kind of hanging in there, but to know all this point stuff that's going on, Carpenter obviously having another big break here, having to drop towards the back with repairing that damage and getting all that sorted as we got a car spinning down the backstretch.
That is the 32 around Noah Carmichael. He was running 12th, started 18th. He was having a pretty good race so far to the starts. I'll bring out our second caution of the night here, Elliot. We're not even at the 20 lap mark yet. We'll see on the replay what happened to the 32 machine. Just wasn't clear. The 31 kind of getting into his left rear, that being Chad Stearns. He made contact with, the 32 did.
Yeah, I got to assume that's just a move from Noah thinking that he can get to the bottom and try to get around. I believe that was Bryden Lindauer that he was trying to get around. But unfortunately, Chad Stearns was there, and we've got pit stops, and they're making decisions up here. Looks like Mavik and Armstrong have decided to pit, but definitely not everybody.
Yeah, we do have some guys that are staying out at the moment. We'll throw it down to Aiden DuPont, what he has down there for us.
Well, 3 guys in the top 10 pitted. Then throughout the mid-pack, there were very few takers, and then some guys towards the end of the pack getting fuel. Joe Armstrong in that first pit, and that's Mavik in the third pit. Kendall Carpenter right behind them. Some big players in this race so far. It looks like they're all grabbing some tires. Very early, didn't expect this, but with a lot of cautions early on, we might see some mix-ups in tire strategy. They're very frugal with tires here tonight.
Thank you very much, AD. I was watching Kendall Carpenter as he came down. I don't think he got tires. I think he probably got a splash of fuel and fixed more of that damage, like Aiden mentioned earlier. Kendall Carpenter did have some damage, and I think he was trying to repair every bit a second of that as he can, because he's on fresher tires than everybody else. Now a little bit older compared to the guys who pitted with him. That's going to drop him all the way down to 24th. And Mavik as well, going to be down there with them too, and Steven Gibson. So a lot of these front runners so far, Elliot, not very fortunate for some of them, like Kendall Carpenter. You got to think a little bit of strategy in works for that 42 machine of Brandon Mavik. And even Joe Armstrong, who drops back in the pack as well, as he was running third before that caution came out.
Yeah, I think you're right on the Kendall Carpenter not taking tire situation, but I think that's the right move, as he's actually going to come back down. I really didn't think he had as much damage as
me either.
Potentially it appears he has. This might just be a fuel call. But either way, it's not super surprising to see these guys take tires, but this is kind of their other set. They have 3 main sets that they'll need to use with the 3 pit stops on a 4, 8, 12 basis, and that'll get them to the end of the race, and then they basically get a free set, which he looks like he's using now. So interesting. I'm not sure why you wouldn't just take them before and come out with everybody, but now he's going to start complete tail end.
Yeah, that's going to set him back even more, like you said. And he has the pace to kind of work his way up through this field, But with how competitive the racing has been thus far in that mid-pack, it's going to be more of a challenge for him to work his way through. Sure, granted, he has the slight advantage now with newer tires. I think that's just still going to kind of shoot him in the foot here a little bit as, again, we saw that close racing side by side pretty much that entire time, and he had to deal with some of those cars that were side by side racing.
Interesting. Admin Oates is asking if Kendall just took tires again. I believe Aiden might have a bit of an update for us.
Did you everything over the radio there, Aiden?
Yeah, Carpenter came over the radio, said that he just forgot to uncheck the tires the second time around. He was just trying to get some fuel.
I've done that before. I don't know if you have, Elliot. I don't know if Aiden, if you've done it either, but I'm definitely guilty of it. Happened to me a couple races ago with the Great Lakes Truck Series where I was only meant to fix damage and I forgot to unclick my tires. And yeah, it was not a smart call.
Well, that is going to pose a problem because, like I said, I mean, he's pretty much wasted a set now. So
yeah, it's going to make it more of a challenge on tires.
And if he took them on the initial pit stop on lap 4 by accident too, then he really doesn't have any sets to play with now. So he's we're going to have to keep an eye on it, but he's basically going to have to run the second half of this race on one set of tires. You only have 4 sets, and if he's used 2 already, he only has 2 left, and he's going to use them on lap 50 or 60-ish, and then about lap 100 and have to run the last 50 all by himself. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. But we're going to go green this time by William Schmidt, Max Mooring, Justin Knutson, Jackson Sims, Cole Freilich, your top 5, and we'll see how clean and green we can run here.
As we get ready here, the pace car will dive onto pit road. William Schmidt will lead this pack back to the green flag, swirling on his outside, and green flag is out. Great jump there by William Schmidt, and that entire inside line as Justin Knutson is getting around swirling here as they're going to dive into turn 1 and 2, and Cole Freilich also looking to follow through with Knutson.
Yeah, I think Schmidt's kind of happy with the strategy call as Freilich really loose behind Knutson trying to get to the inside, but Schmidt pretty happy with the strategy call made by Braden Movic and the others to kind of give him this clean lane, and I think Cole Freilich's about as happy as Schmidt is as he tries to move up to second, and now Sims can kind of slot in behind the 75 of Max Swaring, all for about that top 5 there.
Swaring looking to get back around Knutson as he's going to go side by side going in 1 and 2. If you look a little bit further as well, you got some big movers kind of now in the top 10, one of them being Jeremy Cook, that 070 machine as he gets around Jackson Sims going into 3 and 4. Started 14th for him, current up to 6, and the biggest mover I want to say is Gavin Newton in that 048 machine. Started 26, he's currently 8th, and then Mo Perry behind him in that 41 and 9. So a lot of guys who qualified outside, even the top 20 are working their way up into the top 10, really reaping the benefits of some of these early cautions here. Oh, we got a car around the 97. Jack. No, that's not Jack Painter. Sorry, it's the 91, I believe. Yes, sorry. The font kind of threw me off. Aaron Shuggle will go around. He was running in 11th just outside of that top 10. So unfortunate for him as we're to see our 3rd caution of the night.
And this is going to bring up a very interesting situation with Carpenter and these tires. I think he might be happy about this because this might mean that everybody else will come and take tires at this point and maybe burn their set early. But I still think it's too early to burn that set. I think I'd rather have them later in the race. We're going to go back and rewatch. This looks like the 91. Oh, it seems like he got nervous that the 22 was there. And obviously Armstrong on those fresher tires he has a very fast closing rate, and unfortunately nowhere for the 91 to really go.
Yeah, I'd like to see it from Armstrong's point of view. If we can't get it there. See here, yeah, the 22 of Armstrong just, dove in there, and I think you're right, nailed it on the head there. I think the 91 just got a little bit scared with him being on the inside and came up in front of the 07 of Scotty Sprinkle. And Sprinkle just kind of got into the back of him and sent the 91 machine around. So unfortunate, but like you mentioned, for Kendall Carpenter, this is a huge plus for him because maybe some of these leaders in front of him or some of these cars also in front of him coming down pit road and take some tires. I don't think you'll see any of the leaders like William Schmidt, Cole Freilich, Knutson, Swirling, or even Cook and Jackson Sims take any tires here. There's really no point. You're still on pretty fresh tires with these cautions, and you can, obviously stretch the fuel up to this point and, make those tires last even longer.
Now, Gibson's back on pit road, so I'm not sure if maybe I just have the wrong tire information or they're just not as concerned, but these guys have all taken a couple sets, it seems like. Or maybe Gibson hadn't taken a set yet. Now it's his first one that he's taking. But Carpenter's already made pretty quick work. He's back up in the top 15, up to 14th. So making progress with those new tires, which is always a positive. And he's going to have to do that as this continues on. But I think this is best case for him is these guys, well, honestly, best case would have been for these guys to come and take tires. But I think this still works out for him. He still has the freshest set. And if this goes green now from here, he can definitely play with that a bit. Whereas all these other guys are going to be on old tires and having to pit in about 20-ish laps. So we'll see how that all works itself out. But right now, William Schmidt commanding lead over the rest of the field and hoping to continue to drive away. Meanwhile, Cole Freilich has worked his way up to second and looks to take that away from him.
And Freilich also has had speed this entire season. We've seen his glimpses of it, being able to battle with Kendall Carpenter and even Joe Armstrong and also some other of these top drivers in this league. And speaking of Joe Armstrong, currently up to 11th for him. And he's got Braden Movick right behind him, who also pitted around the same time as him and Kendall Carpenter did originally. And he's back up in 12th, who also has some speed to compete here tonight for a potential win. And of course, Kendall Carpenter, like you mentioned, 14th, has Scotty Sprinkle in front of him and Braden Movick. So still, a very long race, so you can't really get too disheartened if you are Kendall Carpenter, if you are Movick, and even are Armstrong. And I definitely think Movick is trying to play the long game here.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that strategy works out for him. Obviously, it's fun when you've got the two fastest guys, for now, on two completely different strategies, but we'll have to see who else ends up coming up through the field. Obviously, Armstrong started up towards the front. He's worked his way up to 11th on those fresh tires as well, potentially leading that brigade, honestly, on the fresh tires. So we'll have to see how it all works out. But for now, I think, having a split strategies is at least fun, and we'll see whenever these guys start pitting. I'm sure their biggest fear at this point is when those green flag stops start to happen, exactly how this all works out, and if they can cycle their way through. With the cautions happening this quickly, you got to wonder if, A, you even get to that green flag pit stop, or B, if it'll go all the way through. It would potentially catch some of these guys a lap down or in an awkward situation with the tire sets. But right now, we'll have to just wait and see, as we're going to go back green this next time by on lap 25.
And then we're going to get double filed back up. William Schmidt, once again, will lead this field to green here momentarily, who his restarts have looked absolutely electric so far early on in this race. He's able to get a really good jump, but he has another guy on his outside who's also kind of a restart specialist as well, in the 15 of Cole Freilich. And then Knutson right behind him, Max Swirling, and then Jeremy Cook as well. Right behind him.
Yeah, I haven't talked too much about Jeremy Cook, but he was pretty good at Bristol, and he's slowly been kind of creeping his way up towards being a top 5 guy. Obviously started 14th and already broke into the top 5 tonight. So keep your eye on that 70 car as this race goes on. We'll see how he is on older tires.
Yeah, came in 10th at Bristol, so a top 10 performance for him last week. Looking to improve upon that and keep things hot for that 70 machine. But the pace car will dive off. William Schmidt, once again, will lead us to the green flag. Enters the restart zone, and away we are. William Schmidt, again, another great jump. That outside lane kind of stalls out as Knutson will pull up right next to the 15 of Cole Freilich as they dive into 1 and 2.
Yeah, Braden Movick on the outside, wasting no time. He's trying to gain spots immediately. He was the first one that was 3 wide there, as you see them all come off near the wall off of turn 2. And it'll be William Schmidt out ahead of Cole Freilich. Both of those guys kind of distancing themselves away. But look at this gaggle back here. That's Armstrong, Carpenter, Movick, others sliding all over the track. Carpenter nowhere to go, up in the middle, pushing him around, pushing, I believe that's Gavin Newton around Jackson Sims. They're just all over each other right there, but all on those fresh tires.
Yeah, and we got 3 wide, and Kendall Carpenter 4 wide even coming out of 1 and 2. Kendall Carpenter, Joe Armstrong going side by side and splitting the gap between Nolan Sanford and Jackson Sims, who gets shoved up the racetrack. So great racing here off the restarts, and I think it's going to be like that for all the restarts that we do have, where it's going to be like this with these guys just jockeying for position. Where we see the 20, 22, and 42 on those a lot fresher tires, and everybody that's around them kind of making easy work of some of these mid-pack cars and working their way up and now knocking on the door of the top 5.
Yeah, I think Sims may have caught the wall there and may have hurt his car a little bit more than we think it did. He's already back around 25th or so as these guys now trying to work their way towards the top 5, all right behind Jeremy Cook. That's 6th, 7th, and 8th on fresh tires attacking the top 5 now. And it won't be long until they're right up behind Schmidt and Freilich.
With that new tire advantage working in their favor. We see Joe Armstrong send it in there, being right on the quarter panel of that 70 car of Jeremy Cook, and he'll glide right by Movick as well. Slide up on past that 70 machine. We saw the 75, Max Swarling, trying to get shoved at the racetrack as he's side by side with Kendall Carpenter, but you look here, Bryden Lindauer in that 43 trying to fight off some people as well, with the 23 in front of him.
Armstrong 3 wide again, and he was 3 wide a lot at Bristol making moves as the leader. He definitely has no fear about trying to get around people as he's now to the outside of Cole Freilich. And now you've got Movick to the inside trying it, potentially 3 wide again. They are going to go off into the corner. Freilich is just going to get eaten up. Here's the 22 of Knutson on the outside of Freilich on those old tires. Carpenter is the one that's kind of been settled back. Now he hits the wall off of turn 4 trying to get a run on the 70 as Freilich is going to fall in behind in 4th now.
Yeah, I think if you are Cole Freilich, you got to keep in the back of your mind that, you know, these guys around you, such as Movick and even, excuse me, Joe Armstrong, are on a lot fresher tires. But of course, the biggest thing is that there are 2 cars between him and Kendall Carpenter. As I said, that Carpenter looking to complete the pass on the 70 of Jeremy Cook as he's side by side with that 070 coming out of 3 and 4 as we reach lap 30. And even Knutson trying to hang on as he's doing a really good job fighting off that 20 car.
And Joe Armstrong to the lead, but he still has Movick right behind him. They're 3 wide now for the lead. And it's going to be Schmidt that's going to have to give it up on those older tires. But Armstrong and Movick door to door through 3 and 4. And Movick isn't going to get the advantage. Joe Armstrong back to the front to complete lap 31.
Yeah, beautiful job there from all 3 of those drivers, not to collect each other, essentially. But an amazing move there from the 22 machine of Joe Armstrong as he's going to lead lap 32. Look out for Braden Movick as he's going to pull up right on his quarter panel and try to get just to his door coming through 3 and 4. It's going to be almost a drag race, I think, here for the lead coming to lap 33.
Movick definitely has pace. I guess it's just going to depend how these tires really wear out and who's using them the most. Obviously, being down on the bottom, you got to think that the 22 the 42 might be sliding them a little bit more than Armstrong and the 22 on the outside, but we'll have to see as this run goes on. And honestly, back there, Kendall Carpenter now making the move on Cole Freilich hasn't really made a ton of ground. Still hasn't even gotten around Jeremy Cook, who's just sitting there in 5th. Up to 4th, has passed all these guys. Freilich sideways off of turn 4 on these tires as Carpenter makes a move.
Yeah, I've noticed with some of these guys, some of these drivers, they're getting real sideways coming out of some of these turns. And like you mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this is a lot looser of a car, these Gen 4s. So you got to also battle, make sure you're not going to, that rear end's not going to get upset and just slide on you. We also got some 3 wide racing here in the back between Bryden Lindauer, Harry Grindell, and Gavin Newton. So again, great racing throughout this entire pack as Bryden Lindauer is going to be able to take 2 spots off the hands of Grindell and Newton. And Harry Grindell's has actually had a pretty stellar season thus far, with a couple top 10s, a couple top 5s thrown into the mix as well, and he's looking to keep on his ways, as he's currently down in 14th.
Battle for the lead, still on. Movic back to the inside. Joe Armstrong holding that outside lane as they come off of turn 4 again. Can Movic power past on the inside? It just doesn't look like he gets enough drive through the middle of the corner and off to be able to do anything about Joe. And Joe has just been really aggressive as the yellow's actually out.
Just as Armstrong and Movic were starting to, oh, it's Brindell that's around. We were just talking about him. But like I was saying, with Armstrong and Movic, they were pulling away from William Schmidt. I mean, they put a sizable gap between themselves and that 79 car, as they were just on each other's door for a couple laps. So great racing there. We do see some smoke spewing out of, I believe, trying to see what car number that is.
Jonah Malashek? Oh, Gavin Newton.
Nope, Gavin Newton in that green and yellow 48 machine. So I think that might even possibly end the night for Newton. Even Steve Gibson says himself, big trouble. We'll have to see what that big trouble is. See it through wide, and the 07 of Scotty Sprinkle. I don't know if they just got loose there and just came together, or I don't want to see it one more time. But we did see Steve Gibson also kind of near them as well when that happened. Oh, it was 25. Oh, that is not a good look there for the 07, Elliot.
No, and I'm more interested to see how Gavin Newton was involved in that, because it didn't really seem like he did anything. As we have guys pitting, Kendall Carpenter's one of them. Obviously the 97 of William Schmidt as well. And I don't believe Kendall is going to get tires again. So I just might not know how many tire sets we really have tonight, or Kendall is just going to use them all up before we get halfway through this one. But right here is going to be the look at what happens with Newton. It looks like the 07 he just can't control it. He's just sideways out of it. The 48 goes to the inside to try to avoid, and unfortunately, inside wall really hard.
Yeah, just got collected, unfortunately, from the 07 and nailed that inside wall like we just saw. We did see some cars stay out, though. We did see Joe Armstrong, Braden Movic, and Steve Gibson also stay out. But we're going to throw down to Aiden DuPont to see what he has down for us on pit road.
Yeah, just like you said, Evan, all except 5 cars stayed out. That's the 22 of Joe Armstrong, the 42 of Braden Movic, who were out front. The 21 of Steve Gibson, he's probably got newer tires than the rest of the field. He stayed out. Will Schmidt and Bryden Lindauer, they all stayed out. Everybody else came down pit road, filled up on fuel, got 4 tires or so. The 07 has been parked. The admins have been talking over the radio. The 07 of Scotty Sprinkle is pleading his case for the cause of the caution back there. And sounds like the admins came over the radio, said, hey, long race, guys, let's calm it down, and parked the 07 after that incident. The admins are still going back and forth with him, so I'll be here listening in to give you guys updates.
Yeah, if you do have any updates on that, did you hear anything over the radio, Aiden, about the initial wreck and what any drivers kind of up in arms about that? Especially, the Gavin Newton and of course the other cars that the 07 did collect.
Yeah, Scotty came over the radio, said Dad just got loose out of the corner, tried to keep it steady between the 2 other cars, and just lost it. Door slammed both of them. Harry Grindell, not very happy over that incident. He typed out some colorful language, not colorful language. I don't want to say it was anything inflammatory, but he was not happy with that incident. He made himself known in text chat. Gavin Newton's over the radio right now, upset. The admins are over the radio trying to explain everything. It's a little bit of chaos already, and we're only 39 laps into this race. We got a long ways to go here.
Thank you very much, AD. Yeah, very long race. This is our 4th caution of the night already, as we'll take lap 40 under the yellow, but we should be getting stacked back up here momentarily to get back racing here at Las Vegas. Yeah, I would not be surprised if they do park the 07 here. I mean, we did see earlier that they also caused a caution, if I'm not mistaken, when Steven Gibson kind of dove onto the inside of the 07, and they got scared and backed out of it, and also collected a driver, I think, in that incident as well. So I would not be surprised here, Elliot, if that 07 does get parked.
Yeah, I think I don't think the 07 was the cause of the initial. I believe that was a 91 and the 22 getting together in the 07 just kind of had nowhere to go. 91 came up the track in front of them. Not going to point any blame on that, but definitely an odd situation right there with the front stretch. These things are pretty hairy coming off the corner, as we've documented multiple times, but you should be able to maintain your car, and he had plenty of distance between both the outside and inside of him. So not surprising for them to go ahead and call this one, especially since we've had 3 or 4 cautions early on in this race. It's a track where you kind of expect them to go green for a while. It's wide enough. It's fun enough. Leaders are battling really hard. We should be able to. We've seen 4 wide racing work out. Should be able to make this work. So we'll resack them and get them going. Obviously, 5 guys up front with a little bit older tires. Everyone else brand new freshies. And we'll see how this all works out. Pace car's about to hit pit road.
Yeah, 2 of those guys. One of those guys being Bryden Lindauer, started 12th up to 4th. But Joe Armstrong is going to control the restart here as they enter the Geico restart zone, and away they go. Joe Armstrong this time, a really good jump on that inside lane as Braden Movick is trying to make up some ground and also hold off that 21 of Steve Gibson to his inside.
Yeah, and don't count out Steven Gibson there. He's been pretty good these last few weeks, and he's right there to the inside of Braden Movick. Got a little bit loose. So did some of the guys towards the back, right there on the bottom. But William Schmidt on those fresh tires now working to the outside. Look at the run that he gets through the middle of the corner. He's going to go to 3rd, potentially 2nd off of turn 4. Looking back for the lead, William Schmidt.
Yeah, one guy falling like a rock. That 43 of Bryden Lindauer was one of the cars that stayed out, as he gives up 4 positions as the 75 of Swarling is able to get around him as well. And the 32 of Noah Carmichael is trying to also get around him as they come down the backstretch. 2 by 2 right behind him.
Yeah, 22 of Knutson got held up. You can see Schmidt's already gone. Here comes a 70 of Jeremy Cook now working that inside lane. Carpenter working the outside lane. Fresh tires coming, but Carpenter in the outside wall. 2nd time today that he's done that.
Yeah, it's been kind of hairy for some of these guys on corner exit. This week, Knutson actually go out onto the grass. Got a little squirrely coming down the front straightaway for him, and he'll lose a big amount of spots as you battle now with the 31. But look here, Braden Movick trying to hold off Steve Gibson now. Gibson is on, I believe, slightly fresher tires. We see the 75 of Swirling just breeze past Braden Movick on the outside, as well as Kendall Carpenter following him through.
Yeah, all those guys on the outside are on freshies. Everyone on the inside, I think, are all on old tires. Movick, Armstrong, Gibson, and even Sanford potentially. Nope, Sanford's going to roll the outside. So I think all 3 of those guys on the bottom are on old tires, and everyone else just rolling the top right around them and gone. Big battles going on towards the back. Guys moving all over the place, and William Schmidt is now a 2nd clear of the field.
Again, Bryden Lindauer, you see on your screen there for momentarily. He's fallen like a rock. Currently down into 16th after on that restart being around 3rd or 4th, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So big slip from him. I think definitely the call there was to pit for fresher tires. But William Schmidt absolutely checked out at the moment, just charging as the 75 and Max Swarling and Kendall Carpenter trying to get past the 70 of Jeremy Cook out front.
Yeah, I don't think the strategy could have worked out any better for Schmidt. He was able to pit right around when the window opens, now 1.5 seconds clear of the field, and continuing to drive away. Now he's on the freshest tires of anybody, and he has no one to contend with, and it looks like Cook and Swaring are just going to battle so hard here as now Carpenter enters the fray that Schmidt's just kind of gone, and I don't think anyone really has an answer for it quite yet.
Yeah, William Schmidt, we were talking about. Oh, we got a big crash. Some cars around the 23, 56. The 51 getting involved as well. And that was the pack that was running 2 by 2 by 2 essentially. And I think somebody probably just got a little squirrely all racing that tight with each other. And I'll bring out our 5th caution of the night as we take a look here at the replay. I just got stacked up the 22 of Joe Armstrong. And I made the 23 of Jonah Malashak. And just accordioning the rest of the field there on that outside line.
It's just the fact that the new tires are so much faster than the old tires, and that's literally all that was. Armstrong's just trying to run the top with Movic on the inside, and these guys, instead of going 3 wide, decide to follow the guys on old tires and don't realize how much quicker they can rotate that middle of the corner compared to everyone else. And unfortunately, all it kind of, to your point, they accordioned into each other and just kind of drove over each other, and that's what we end up with. That's definitely frustrating for a lot of those guys back there, but nothing really anybody did directly wrong, just the fact that they're so much faster on those fresh tires.
Yeah, it's going to happen when you do have the, the mixed bag of people on old tires, people on fresh tires. As we hop on board. I believe that is the 53, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's the 56 of Corey Lyles. We got spun around there and got into the back of the 23 of Jonah Malashak. So unfortunate. And also for William Schmidt, it's also unfortunate as he built up a pretty big lead on Max Swirling and Kendall Carpenter, even Cole Freilich that were kind of surging or fighting with each other. And he took advantage of that and checked out there for a second.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway here is Schmidt had them cleared for a while and he was pretty much gone, and unfortunately all that work is now going to go away, and he's going to have to restart and get this going again. But we'll have to see if the 22 and those guys decide to pit after what just happened there. Maybe get some fresh tires now. It doesn't appear so, though, as Armstrong stays out on track. So interesting strategies. Movic also stays out on track. I'm wondering if they know that they just can't go through tires willy-nilly, so they're all going to stay out and keep running what they've got for now.
Because we saw Movic on that restart, excuse me, fall like a rock. Even, I already mentioned his name a couple times, Bryden Lindauer as well fell like a rock on old tires as well. But you got to think, I personally, I would have taken this to my advantage and got some tires, but it still kind of puts you out of sync with the leaders as well. Because we know Movic has the pace. He showed it early on that, he can lead some laps. So now you got to think, you just make these tires last as long as possible and hopefully either A, get caught back up on the tire cycle that the current leaders are on, or kind of cut that tire cycle down to a smaller margin lap-wise, and that puts you more on par with kind of their pit strategies.
Also, not really sure what happened with Jeremy Cook. He was running up inside the top 5 there right in front of Kendall Carpenter, and I don't think he's disconnected, but he just pulled off and stopped. He actually has disconnected, so he is gone for the night. Frustrating. Having driven his way up from 26th all the way up into that top 5 and was running really well, but potentially made a wrong call or something, and he is out for the evening, as we will hopefully get the one to go this time. But you can see the field starting to stack up.
And one of the drivers made a good point that Bristol last week only had apparently one caution last week at Bristol, and we're already on our 6th here at Las Vegas in the Nekoworks Designs World 360K, which is very surprising to see. Normally short track racing breeds a lot more cautions than we see at 1.5 miles. So very interesting to see that that stat get brought up from the drivers.
I just think the differing strategies is what's kind of caused all this to happen initially. You got a lot of guys on old and fresh tires, and it just kind of creates those weird stack ups. And the cars are already enough to handle, so when you get off the corner, you're kind of having to manage that already. And then you've got guys that are slower in front of you and guys that are faster behind you, and it just kind of creates a little bit more chaos. But hopefully these slow guys will kind of just, stay out of the way-ish, or these guys will figure out who's slow and who they need to get past. That's usually the first thing you ask when you're on fresh tires is who's on older tires, and try to figure it out so you know who to avoid. But we'll see as they restack, and we are a third of the way through this one. Still 100 laps to go, and they take the green time by.
Yeah, the pace car lights are off, and we'll dive on to pit road. And we'll come to lap 51 here on the green flag. Once again, William Schmidt on the restart. And green flag back out. We're all rolling. Another pretty solid restart there from the 79. As Max Swarling will dive in front of Kendall Carpenter to kind of stop his surge through. And of course, Cole Freilich trying to work his way past his basically his championship rival so far this season in that 20 machine of Kendall Carpenter. As the 70's actually into the wall, but it will recover.
Yeah, they all kind of caught the wall a little bit there trying to get off the corner. They have no front grip. You can see the 75 struggling just to get through the corner behind the 79. All of them kind of caught the wall, and Freilich again with Carpenter right to his inside. They're trying to stay off each other, but they're ended up in the outside wall. As Swarling was fast, but unfortunately it looks like Carpenter might have his number as Schmidt tries to take off here on this restart.
Yeah, Cole Freilich all over the bumper of that 20 machine, trying to get back around him. As again, that's been the best championship battle thus far of the season was between Freilich and Carpenter. As Carpenter will have a slight run on the 75, but it's not going to go anywhere. We'll look on the screen here. You'll see the 33 of Isaac Johnson. Started 20th here, Elliott, and currently up to 8th, so inside the top 10 for that 33 car, who hasn't had the best season thus far, and is looking to hopefully crack the top 10 here tonight.
I was going to say, unfortunately for him, we kind of call out his name a lot in Rex, not even of his own doing. He's just kind of involved in it, and it kind of goes back to where he starts. Obviously started 20th tonight as the 75 is going to hit pit road under green. Might have to go down to AD in a second here and see if that's a scheduled stop or not. But another person to shout out is Henry Kalhoff, up in 4th after starting 22nd. So some of these guys that start back in the 20s making their way up to this top 5 as now this battle for second is on. Freilich and Carpenter now, without the 75 in front of them, can focus on each other for the second spot.
And Kalhoff, I believe, also
Sorry,
too.
just going to jump in here, guys. The 75 got a lane change penalty on that restart, jumping right in front of the 20's nose of Kendall Carpenter. Edmonds came over the radio, gave him 3 laps to pit, and here he is exiting the pit road right now. That's a tough penalty at this point in the race.
Yeah, good catch there, AD. We appreciate it. I mean, I saw that jump to the inside line that he did make on Kendall Carpenter, and even I was a little suspicious of that move. But race control deemed it a lane change violation like AD just mentioned, and you'll have to serve that and now drop the 75 all the way down to 25th place. But we see a nice battle here between the 32 and the 22 of Noah Carmichael, Joe Armstrong. Joe Armstrong, our pole sitter, currently sitting in 15th. He's kind of just getting caught up in this lap, or not this lap traffic, but kind of these mid-pack cars here, Elliott.
Well, remember, him and Brayden were on older tires, and now all of a sudden Brayden is up to 2nd. Restarted behind Armstrong, so he may have pit. I think might have to ask AD another question to see if Movic must have pit there, because he is just driven around everybody up here and is now starting to catch William Schmidt.
Yeah, you are correct, Elliot. Braden Movic did come down pit road that last pit cycle.
Yeah, so your suspicions were right, Elliott. Thank you once again, Aiden, for that. That's why he's back out there. I mean, we saw that he was fighting for the lead earlier in this race, and he's trying to track down that 79 for William Schmidt, which he's closing that gap slowly but surely, as he is on a lot fresher tires, I believe, of William Schmidt, who if I remember correctly, did not pit on our last caution. Look here on your screen. Chad Stearns trying to get around the 21 of Steven Gibson. And this is for the battle for 8th place at the moment.
Battle for the lead starting to heat up a little bit. Braden Movic is basically going to be to the inside of Schmidt this time if he wants, and he doesn't take it. I think he kind of learned a little bit racing Joe Armstrong. He says, I'm just going to roll the top, and he's going to roll the top right around the 79 of Schmidt. Put Braden Movic back on point. That tire strategy is working as Freilich gets off the corner really loose all the way down nearly the apron for the 15, trying to get to that 20. These guys are battling hard for this third spot.
Yeah, you'd think that 15 is driving a sprint a sprint dirt car with how much he's sliding on some of these corners sometimes. That's the really second or third big snap and save that the 15 has had to make. And again, trying to fight his championship rival and Kendall Carpenter right in front of him as he's starting to get right back to his bumper. But I think you're right. I think that outside line, even if you are on fresher tires, is that preferred line when you are going to make a pass. It just doesn't seem that inside line does not have that well of a drive off the corner compared to that outside line where you're just running basically, a car or two above that inside groove.
Yeah, usually with these cars, if you can't run all the way out to the wall on that inside, it just feels like you're over-rotating the front tires and trying to get too much and asking too much out of the rears to get off the corner. So definitely makes sense to watch these guys go towards the outside lane and make those passes as Movic is now over a half second out. Schmidt still gapping Carpenter and Freilich. So, William Schmidt is obviously a great contender here. It's going to be interesting how these strategies work out and who has tires win. But right now, it just looks like Carpenter and Freilich, who are usually your favorites coming in, are kind of suffering and going to have to deal with third and fourth right now as Gibson is starting to make his way up to them as well.
Yeah, Gibson and Justin Knutson working their way up right behind the 15 of Cole Freilich. Gibson as well started fifth, got caught up in an incident for our first caution of the night. So glad to see him knocking on the door of the top 10 as he's just absolutely just setting down some really good laps at the moment. He's able to catch right back up to the 15. I even think Justin Knutson is just trying to ride along at the moment as Gibson looks to the outside of that 15.
Well, you saw in the graphic that Gibson actually pitted under that last yellow as well. Now we've run about 10 laps green here. He pit on lap 47 with Movic. So some of these guys did come in and pit on those on that last pit stop and are driving up here with fresh tires. But it's just all gonna depend how these tire sets fall off, how they work their way out as this race goes on. Obviously, we only thought they had 4 sets of tires, and with the multiple cautions that we've had, it seems like they've gone through most of them. But we'll have to see who has tires at the end. The next sequence should be around lap 80 if they're trying to go to the end. So we'll have to see when they all decide to pit.
Yeah, Stephen Gibson will get around the 20 and the 15 of Kendall Carpenter and Cole Freilich. So move that 21 car into third place at the moment. And as Cole Freilich is trying to fight off Justin Knutson, who's just right behind him, about a car and a half in front of the 15 is of the 22. And even Knutson trying to bounce back a little bit, has kind of been in some ups and downs as well, but definitely showing off the speed here tonight.
Yeah, Nolan Sanford's another one that we haven't really talked about a whole lot. He ran pretty well at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve at Montreal, and usually he just is another one similar to Isaac Johnson that just kind of gets caught up in other people's stuff. Started 8th tonight, currently running 7th, so just a nice solid night for him, and I'm sure this is what he wishes he could be doing on a weekly basis and what he feels he could be doing on a weekly basis. So nice to see him running up front right now here at Vegas and trying to make his way towards Knutson, Freilich, and Carpenter.
And for Knutson, I mentioned already, 14th back last week at Bristol, even Nolan Sanford as well. 11th for him, so he's not able to crack into the top 10 last race, but currently sitting in 7th. Also had a really solid qualifying effort. Qualified 8th to start this race. So he's looking to stay right where he is. You look here, side by side, 97 of Jack Painter and also Noah Carmichael battling for that 10th spot. As they're door-to-door coming down the backstretch.
Yeah, we haven't talked about Jack Painter. Kind of surprising to not see him run up inside the top 5 or qualify even inside the top 10, but starting to meticulously work his way towards the front. Obviously going to use tire strategy as well as this run goes on.
And Cole Freilich starting to fall a little bit as we saw the battle slightly on your screen between him and Knutson. But also has opened the door for Chad Stearns and also Nolan Sanford, who we already were talking about. They kind of worked their way up to the bumper of the 22 of Knutson. And Cole Freilich is now starting to make some ground on the 20 of Carpenter in front. But kind of just a little bit of a choo-choo train going on here as we come to lap 69 of 150.
And as this goes on, you see Joe Armstrong now hitting pit road. He was one of, he was the guy that I think should have pitted when Movic and those guys did. I think he's on the most the most off strategy that he possibly can be. He's about 10 laps short on fuel from here, I believe, too. So it'll be interesting how that works its way through. But I was about to say, wow, Freilich loose again right there in front of Knudsen. Yeah. But I was about to say what the fuel strategy is, you know, for guys like Movic and Gibson, like they're kind of set. It's going to fall on Schmidt and Carpenter and everyone else. They need these things to run green and not have a yellow in between. In between their fuel strategies. So pit stops coming up shortly here now that Armstrong's on pit road, and we'll see how that works its way through.
Yeah, Knudsen finally able to get around the 15, utilizing that big snap off a corner exit last lap from the 15. And then Chad Stearns also going to get around the 15, coming to lap 71. So move those two cars up a little bit more. Knudsen will take that 5th spot. Chad Stearns trying to get into the top 10, or top 5, himself, currently 6th. But big fall off here for Cole Freilich. He's really battling those tires. I mean, we even saw with fresher tires in that battle with Kendall Carpenter early on in this run that he was getting some big snaps off a corner exit.
Yeah, he's really suffering, potentially using him up a little bit more than what he wants to at the beginning of the run. He was trying to maintain with Schmidt, and now that's all kind of gone awry as Painter is now to his back bumper, and that's all right around the 7th, 8th, 9th positions because Sanford's right behind them as too.
Sanford, like you mentioned, trying to gain back some of the spots that he did lose. And our 10th place car at the moment is the 32 of Noah Carmichael, who started this race in 18th. So doing very well. And even Henry Koloff started 22nd, started 11th. We've already mentioned him a little bit thus far. But currently, as they run your top 10, Braden Movic currently still out in the lead. Currently has a 3-second gap of William Schmidt, who's in 2nd place. Then Steve Gibson, Kendall Carpenter, Justin Knudsen is your top 5 at the moment as they run. And then, of course, the battle for 6th, 7th, 8th, and even 10th place. You got Chad Stearns, Cole Freilich, Jack Painter, Nolan Sanford, and Noah Carmichael as well. Side by side, Painter and Freilich go as they head into turn 1 and 2.
And Gibson has actually caught Schmidt up here for the 2nd spot and is actually going to go around him. So move Steven Gibson up to 2nd, William Schmidt back to 3rd. And just to update you, Joe Armstrong's a lap down in 23rd, trying to make this strategy work. It'll be interesting again to see how it works out for him. But right now, setting blazing times, having to work his way through traffic at the moment as you see Carpenter starting to run the top. And it kind of worked there, but Knudsen's still trying to make grounds on the bottom on those fresh tires.
Yeah, Knudsen kind of just had a bad corner exit coming off of 4, I believe, and that kind of shot him in the foot a little bit as he was in front of Kendall Carpenter, and now he's battling side by side coming out of turn 1 and 2, and then Chad Stearns is going to get right up on the bumper. Great shot here of the action between the 31, 22, and the 20 here on lap 75 as they're getting ready to come to lap 76. Great battles here so far at Vegas. Things keep on heating up as we get deeper into this green flag run.
And that puts us about halfway through. Gibson not losing a lot of time to Movic. Schmidt and others losing about 2 or 3 tenths a lap to Braden Movic, who is just setting a blistering pace, 4 seconds out over Gibson now as pit stops, I have to imagine, are going to start in the next 5 or 6 laps here.
Yeah, it makes sense with the fuel window and everything. One thing that I'm just curious about is the pit call from Joe Armstrong. I mean, like you already mentioned, he's a lap down in 23rd. Sure, he got the fresh tires, but even when, the pit cycle does happen, he might be able to unlap himself, or if a caution does come out, and maybe that's what Armstrong is hoping for, is a caution to come out. It's going to be really hard for him to unlap himself, and even if he does, I mean, that just puts him at such a disadvantage with these leaders going to have around 10 to 15-ish lap fresher tires, depending on when these leaders do pit.
Well, I think for him, the caution just didn't fall right. He was initially on Braden Movic's strategy, and we've got a car kind of sliding there. I believe that's Noah Carmichael. Frustrating run for him now after running up towards the top 5 and top 10 most of the start of this race, but saved it luckily, and we'll continue on. But for Joe Armstrong, it looks like he just didn't pit when Movic and those guys did, and it's gonna catch him out. So he needs this to go through, and then a yellow after it sequences through, and he's back on the lead lap. You can see him coming in the picture right there behind Jack Painter, but just off strategy, and unfortunately, it's gonna hurt him here in the short run.
Yeah, great racing once again here for this top 5 spot, as Knudsen is able to get back around Kendall Carpenter. But of course, you have Joe Armstrong, and there's a lot fresher tires in these cars around him at the moment, but it is still a lap down. I mentioned trying to unlap himself and not also trying to impede or get in the way of these cars fighting for position, as a big snap from the 22 of Knudsen, able to save it and keep it straight. But Jack Painter and Chad Stearns are able to take advantage of that, as they will get around the 22, and they're side by side and start to make a run on the 20 of Kendall Carpenter.
I have to imagine that was maybe a connectivity issue of the 22 and Knudsen, sorry, the 32. Knudsen being a little bit too close. Or actually, they're both the 22, sorry. But I have to imagine that was maybe a connectivity issue with how much Knudsen's car kind of snapped there. But really good save by Knudsen to continue on and not lose a lot of time out of it either.
Jack Painter now knocking on the door for that 4th spot now. Fight for 4th between him and Kendall Carpenter. He's going to pull along right alongside of him coming out of turn 1 and 2. But great run there from Carpenter, that he's really making that high side work. He's able to get a lot better of a corner exit, but he's able to get, he's going to put it up into the wall almost, keeps it off. But the other beauty of running that high line, and like you mentioned a little bit ago, Elliot, with these cars, if you're not able to run that inside line with getting up next to the wall out of corner exit, you're not going to have a lot of good speed down back on the straightaway. And Kendall Carpenter is almost plopping his car right on there, but we'll have 3 wide coming onto the backstretch.
William Schmidt is throwing the gauntlet down as he got wrecking down the backstretch. Schmidt is on pit road. They all save it and keep going.
Wow, Kendall Carpenter and the 31 just met. That was hairy. Good job by the drivers to keep everything straight and narrow. But significant damage now on that right rear of the 31 of Chad Stearns, who's had a pretty good run here tonight. Wow, that was a little hairy there.
Yeah, and that's a big deal for Schmidt. Again, he needs this to stay green. Anyone else at pits needs this to stay green so that they can, not get caught a lap down and get stuck in a position where they can't get anything back. But pit stops are now happening, and we're in that window. And you got to wonder what Movic and these guys do that are on the fresher tires. If they pit now, they can just maintain their track position. So I don't see why they wouldn't. I wouldn't let Schmidt get too much of a run here. He does come out behind Armstrong, and he's going to have to go track him down for now.
And we will see if, speaking of pit stops, go down to our pit reporter here briefly, in Aiden DuPont, see if he has any updates or anything going down on pit road for us. Aiden?
12 laps after Joe Armstrong had pitted, that's when 3 cars have come down pit road. The 07 of Scotty Sprinkle on lap 81, and then the 75 of Schmidt, the 49 of Perfect Laracus on lap 82. Those are the only 3 cars that have been down pit road so far this cycle that are on the same strategy, not along with the 022 of Joe Armstrong or the 43 of Bryden Lindauer. They are in the off strategy. Everybody else coming in now is going to be similar. The 33 of Isaac Johnson is coming down at the moment, and we're going to see a huge rush of cars come as they need to fill their gas tanks.
Sanford and Freilich all hitting pit road with Isaac Johnson as well.
Thank you very much, AD, for your pit report. We'll probably throw it back down to you here momentarily as these green flag pit stops do here commits with 86 laps here to the Neko Designs World 360K here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And like you mentioned, some guys already a lap down. Joe Armstrong, Max Swarling will go a lap down as he comes into pit. And we also see a bunch of gaggle of the leaders also coming down to pit. See Jack Painter and the 20 of Kendall Carpenter also coming down. So our pit cycles have started here, Elliot. So what are you kind of looking for some of these guys coming out of the pits, or potentially even some of these guys that are still leading, as Braden Movic still hasn't pitted is he'll stay out and lead yet another lap as we start lap 88.
Well, yeah, that's my question mark, is what Movic does. Does he have enough fuel to make this on one more stop? Is he in that position to do it? Because I believe he'd need to get to 110, which is another 20-ish laps. If he can do that, then by all means, absolutely. But if he can't, he should probably pit now or another lap before he loses too much ground. And William Schmidt is your race leader at that point. So we'll have to see what Movic does in the next couple laps. But if he can't make it to 110, he needs to pit as soon as possible, or he's just going to give up his massive lead. And, you know, if you have a 5-second lead, I'm trying to keep as much of that lead as possible. I don't really care if I have half the field a lap down right now.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. A lot of different strategies coming into this. I mean, of course, excuse me, on a track where you're going to have green flag pit stops, I'm sure this kind of went through all the drivers' heads at one point or another. It's kind of, yeah, when do you pit, especially if you are the leader? I think if you're Movic, I know it's tough. You want to try to keep this gap the best you can, but at the moment, you know, he won't cycle through unless, of course, like you mentioned, Elliot, if he has enough fuel to make one more stop, because potentially some of these drivers do have to make another stop before the end of this race. But with the gaggle of cars that did come down pit road, once again, we're going to send it down to Aiden DuPont to see what he had for us on those cars that pitted on some of these green flag pit stops.
Well, like the rest of the field has come down pit road, only a few stragglers are left still running on the track and not pitted yet. We've had some of the front runners come down and pit. Chad Stearns has pit. Jackson Sims has pit. Isaac Johnson, as mentioned earlier. Jack Painter. Looks like everybody is getting back on track after their pit stops. They got fresh tires on. They're going to hit the rubber to the road. Back up to you guys.
Appreciate it once again, AD. But one thing I do want to mention, Elliot, is Max Swarling currently 2 laps down. I don't know if he had an incident go on or got a penalty of some kind, but currently 2 laps down for a guy who was at one point running in the top 5 and even fighting, you know, for second place and potentially even first place at one point.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's just because of where he is right now. He may have had a speeding penalty. We'll have to go back and double check. But obviously he had that pass-through penalty after the lane change on the restart, and he's right now just behind William Schmidt. So I'm wondering if it's just positionally because of that, or he may have had a hold on pit road with speeding, as now your leader, Braden Movic, hits pit road, so he cannot make it on just one more stop. Everyone will have one stop from here still. But he will start the cycle of these guys that could have gone a little bit longer now pitting. I believe Knudsen stays out for an extra lap or so, potentially to lead and get some bonus points, and some others still left out on track.
Yeah, Justin Knudsen will inherit the lead at the moment, but I think as things start to cycle out, I believe our race leader, I don't think he has pitted yet, I think will be Kendall Carpenter, if I'm not mistaken.
Should either be the 79 of Schmidt, or I believe Schmidt's just gotten around Armstrong, so it'll be tight between Schmidt and Movic.
Yeah, I got a little bit of mistake there reading the relative. Apologies for that. So yeah, William Schmidt. Good catch there. Good catch there, Elliot. Currently sitting in 7th, but of course the cars in front of him: Knudsen, Movic just pitted, Harry Grindel, John Daniels, Mo Perry, and Levi Wolf. Have yet to pit. So at the moment, put Schmidt at the lead once everything cycles out. As Knudsen actually will finally come down pit road.
Movic has some work to do. He came out behind Kendall Carpenter, so he is about nearly 10 seconds behind Schmidt. We're going to have to see how this run works out, but this is what I was saying. Movic needed to pit a lot earlier. He has basically given up 15 seconds in between that stop, considering he was 5 seconds ahead going in and came out 10 seconds behind. That's a huge swing and a really positive gain for William Schmidt.
The other thing he has to worry about, he does have Kendall Carpenter right behind him, which Carpenter does have the pace, I think, to kind of keep up with Movic. And even for Movic, he does have the pace also to kind of work his way up through Steve Gibson, Armstrong, and Schmidt as well.
Now, Movic's on about 10 lap pressure tires, so that gap is going to go away very quickly. It's just going to depend on when Schmidt decides to pit and how long Movic continues to stay out. And honestly, for Armstrong, if he pits around 110 and can make this on one more stop like everyone else, he might come out with a top 5 finish. After we were talking about it potentially being an abysmal night for him, at one point running 22nd a lap down with where his pit strategy is, he might actually be on the okay side here.
Yeah, big turnaround for Gibson, which if you're just tuning into the race as well, he did get involved with a bit of an incident on the initial start of the race here tonight, where he got kind of shoved out of line and, like Elliot just mentioned, shoved him all the way back outside of the top 20 at one point. So good recovery drive from him, currently sitting up in third, but don't look now. Here comes Braden Movic to his back bumper, and I think he's going to make quick work of the 21 machine as he dives down on the inside, going through 3 and 4. And there goes Braden Movic, who again has had the pace all night. That'll move him up into third, and now he's going to try to track down the 22 of Joe Armstrong.
And Movic's actually making crazy pace of William Schmidt. He is over a second quicker a lap, and will get there very soon. And I don't really think there's anything Schmidt can do at this point. He's just going to have to pit about as early as he can and hope that Movic just makes a mistake or something on pit road, because Movic is coming. He's already past Armstrong there, and less than 3.5 seconds to Schmidt as he crosses to take lap 99, closing it on 50 to go.
Movic looking almost Kyle Larson-esque in that 42, a throwback to when Kyle Larson was in the 42 machine at one point early on in his Cup Series career. We're kind of channeling that inner Larson as he's just flying at the moment. I mean, he's setting down some pretty good lap times. I mean, ran a 30.7 on that last lap, so he's just setting some burners at the moment. And only a 1.8 seconds behind our current race leader of William Schmidt. Have to wait and see. Also, of course, we'll take a quick look at our top 10 after that pit cycle as well, as these cars are starting to get a little more spread out. Oh, we got a yellow, Elliott.
I don't know who that was. It just got sent down to the inside. You can see right there. It's a 75.
Oh, Warling. Unfortunate for the 75. Was able to actually unlap himself. He was 2 laps down after those, after the pit cycles. But unfortunate from him, was running 22nd. Like I mentioned, he was 2 laps down, was able to unlap himself. And that is just disheartening for the 75. That's pretty much going to end his night. Way too much damage. Has no nose on that car. I have to wait to see what happened to him on this replay. Oh, big snap coming through the turn. So self-inflicted there from the 75. It looked like his car just snapped and possibly an overcorrection. And just sent him into that outside wall. And that would do it for the 75 as he's out of the car. Unfortunate for him here tonight.
And Schmidt hits pit road, which is not what I anticipated anybody doing except maybe Armstrong. Armstrong hits pit road, and actually most of the field's coming down.
No, I'm actually surprised to see that. I mean, the big question is, are they able to make it on fuel with this stop?
No.
So
No, they're at least 5 or so laps short. I'm just interested in the tire sets, but apparently they think they've got enough sets, or maybe they're taking their last one and just saying, this is it, and we'll run out if we run out, or I don't know. Maybe they think they can make it from here, but I was told 42 laps max, and this is 46, 47-ish when we go green away from the end of this race. So
yeah,
maybe their plan is to not pit for the rest of the race and get a yellow.
Yeah, I mean, at this point you're banking on a yellow, which I don't think that is the. It's tough. I mean, you could bank on the yellow, especially I think this is, I believe, is our 8th caution of the night. So we've had a good amount of them, and of course, cautions breed cautions. But I mean, I just don't think it's really worth it. I mean, you're not on that old of tires for some of these guys that did pit. So you got to think, yeah, maybe they can make it to the end if their fuel savings enough. I mean, at some points you're probably coasting it into the corner anyway, but I mean, I just don't know if that's the right play here, Elliot.
Be interested if AD has any news on the decisions here.
Let's go on, throw it down to AD. What do you got for us?
Well, there has not been a lot of chatter amongst drivers about their strategies. They're mostly chit-chatting about other aspects of the race. I've got no real information down on pit road other than the 42 of Brandon Movic and the 21 of Steve Gibson. Those are the only one of our front runners who did not come down pit road. Tire strategy has been a huge question mark and a great source of entertainment all throughout tonight. And I cannot wait to see if this race goes green, what's going to happen with all these drivers? When are they going to pit? How many tires are they going to put on? And I don't know. I'm keeping my ear to the radios, listening in on all these drivers. But I'm excited. I'm strapped in for the rest of this race, guys. Back up to you.
Appreciate AD, and we are as well. I mean, it has been a pretty action-packed race thus far here tonight at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I mean, we've seen a lot of pack. We've seen some pack racing. We've seen 4 wide. We've seen 3 wide. We've seen cars be 2x2. Like, I mean, it's been some exciting racing here so far, Elliot.
Yeah, and it's kind of what we anticipated seeing. I'm just very interested in, I think out of everybody's strategy, I think Kendall is the most interesting one. Does he have tires left at this point? Remember, he accidentally used his stat early on in this race. So, obviously, they still have one scheduled pit stop, which was anticipated to be around lap 110 to 120, anywhere in that range. They could have gone about 125-ish, but they could have pitted from 110 to make it. So you got to wonder if the 20 has any sets left, and maybe that's why he stayed out here. You got to wonder if these new tires mean anything. Remember, these guys only pitted about 15 laps ago. It is a big difference, but if it goes green until the end, I guess the assumption from someone like William Schmidt is if it goes green until the end, nobody can make it on fuel, but Braden has worse tires now. So for the 79, it's just go all out, come in and get a splash with a little bit of time left on the clock and finish this one off, hopefully with a big lead. That's the only strategy I can think that he's going for. In which case, if it goes green until the end, he is a genius because that's exactly what will happen, and he has the fresher tires to make it work. But if they get a late yellow, and Braden Movic has a chance to come and get tires, then I don't know. It's going to look like a crazy call at the end of the day because I don't think it really works out for him. But Movic's going to have to go through about 20 cars to get there, and Schmidt only has to pass about 5 here. So we'll see what happens when he goes green.
As we say, that pace car will dive onto pit road once again. And Brandon Movic will lead him to the restart zone. And back green here for the Nekoworks Designs World 360K. And Movic is shot out of a cannon. Just gaps the 20 and the 21 of Carpenter and Gibson, who are there side by side going through 1 and 2. And of course, too, William Schmidt side by side with Knutson, who's had a really solid night thus far. And we're going to possibly get some 3 wide action here heading into 3 and 4.
Yeah, watch for Schmidt to get gone. Here's Painter to the inside as well, back there, all for about that 5th, 6th spot. 4 wide between
Whoa.
Painter and others, going for about 7th on back there, as Schmidt now clear for 2nd, has sights set on Braden Movic.
Yeah, Nolan Sanford in that 52 was on the very outside lane of that 4 wide going through 3 and 4. And coming onto the front stretch, he just had to back out of it. I think that is a smart call. He is going to lose some spots. As Cole Freilich, he gets into the wall trying to get around the 32 of Noah Carmichael. And that's going to be a little bit of a deficit to him, but he's able to drive right back up to the outside of Painter. And he's going to send it 3 wide once again as he gets into the door of the 32. And wow, great save by the 15 as well as the 97 of Painter, where Freilich kind of pinballed off the 32 into the 97.
And this is that aggression with guys on old tires, guys on new tires. You can see Freilich just so fast compared to these other guys like Gibson and Carpenter who are on old tires, but he just can't make the pass work. He's going to go all the way out to the wall, and he's going to clear them. Big move by the 15 to go around these guys, as now here come the fresher tires on the bottom, and Carpenter's trying to work his way out.
Yeah, and the 63 of Henrik Koloff got into the back bumper of the 20 of Kendall Carpenter there for a second, but able to keep it straight and narrow. But what a move by Cole Freilich. I mean, he has had some good pace so far as he's trying to track down Bryden Lindauer in front of him, the 43 for a top 5 spot. But wow, what a move by Freilich. I mean, that's a racing driver move, setting it 4 wide like that on the very outside line, especially on a racetrack such as Las Vegas.
And Schmidt to the inside of Movic, going to try to make a quick pace of this and go to the lead. Meanwhile, Joe Armstrong right behind them clears Justin Knutson for third, and he's got sights set on the top 2 now. Remember, this strategy only works for Schmidt if this goes green all the way through. If they get a yellow at any point, Movic probably has a set of tires. I say probably because we're not 100% confident, but if Movic has a set of tires and the strategy swings back into his favor, but he needs this to go green for a little bit and maybe get a yellow around lap 130, 135-ish for it to work into his favor.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if our producer is able to figure out how many tires these guys do have, because we've been scratching our heads at it all night long with how much tires these guys have. But we see a great battle here. A great battle here for the top 10 as the 23 of Jonah Malashak is able to get around the 20 of Kendall Carpenter. And even the 52 of Noah Carmichael going right up and fighting with the 52 of Nolan Sanford, I believe that is. But side by side is Grindell and Carpenter as they head through 1 and 2.
Yeah, we're hearing they only had 4 sets of tires for sure. So, again, we don't exactly know how many sets everybody's used, but the assumption is most of these guys have used all their sets. Movic might be one that hasn't, but again, I have to imagine most of the field, besides maybe those last 3 or 4 that stayed out, except even Kendall Carpenter, who has now dropped all the way back to 15th. I believe they've all used their sets, and I say Carpenter may have used his because he accidentally took a set in the first 10 laps of the race when he was repairing damage. So he may have burned a set early, and now he is just falling through the field as all these guys are on fresh tires, and it has gone backwards for him outside the top 15 now.
Yeah, Stephen Gibson able to get around him now as Kendall Carpenter is going to drop all the way down to 18th. And I mean, these older tires, it really does show the pace difference. I mean, it's pretty much night and day between the guys on fresher tires and on older tires. So Kendall Carpenter, yeah, I don't think he has another set. Like we've been mentioning all night long, he accidentally took a set, which is sometimes the strife you have with iRacing, especially if you don't have somebody crew chief for you. You got so much going on with the car, especially if you're trying to fix damage and everything else going on that you're dealing with as a driver. You forget to do some stuff like that. So it's just a very simple mistake for Kendall Carpenter, and I think that's pretty much going to put a big deficit to him on his placement and his finish here tonight. But one guy who probably is enjoying that misuse of tires is Cole Freilich, as he's still trying to battle for the top 5 with Bryden Lindauer in front of him, but Jack Painter in the 97 right on his bumper. As you know, like we mentioned, Freilich has a 20-point lead coming into this race above Kendall Carpenter in the points championship. And he's really enjoying that right now as he's in 6th place at the moment.
Well, the other side of that is Schmidt came in here 3rd in points, 49 back, but this could be a big boost to him if he can come out with a win. Painter goes around Freilich potentially here as well. Painter was up inside the top 5 in points, so a lot of different point swings going on, and I thought this race was far from over. Joe Armstrong was getting there, and all of a sudden has just completely stopped his assault, and the 79 starting to distance himself, and now we've got Braden Movic starting to gain back on Armstrong, has gotten back around Justin Knutson, so Braden Movic may be saving some tire here.
Yeah, which honestly would not be a bad call for Movic because he did stay out on that last caution, if I'm not mistaken. So, of course, the fresher tires have a huge advantage as Knutson is trying to get past around the 42. But also, too, with these older tires here, Elliot, it's almost like you just hit an absolute wall in terms of your pace, and it is very apparent when you do hit that wall.
I think we're seeing it right now. Brian Lindauer to the outside, going to go around the 22 and the 42, and I think that's Knutson's move to say, okay, I probably need to get going, but I believe Knutson's on the same strategy as Movic, and that's why you see him starting to fall back as well. And these guys now setting sights on Joe Armstrong, who we know is on fresher tires, but might just be saving a little bit. Remember, a lot of these guys close on fuel too. Some might just be trying a little bit different on fuel. Schmidt, different story. He's just going to go all out and see where it lends him. But right now, you've got the 22 dropping back. Bryden Lindauer up to second.
Yeah, amazing job drive so far for Bryden Lindauer. Started 12th. He has been hovering around the lower portion of the top 10 the entire night. He's able to move himself into second place with that 43 machine. But Joe Armstrong's starting to fall back a little bit as Cole Freilich is around him, and now the 97 of Jack Painter gets around him as well. And Knudsen was able to finally clear the 42 of Braden Lindauer, but the 63 of Henry Karloff and Chris Pervalarkis side by side with him, but we will see Movic dive down on the pit road.
And he almost got run over right there. I believe it was Kalhoff that was right behind him, but Movic going to be able to make it on the pit road safely. Glad he doesn't look like he was speeding, but this is him laying the gauntlet down. He can make it from here, and he's just going to go another 30 laps. We'll have to see if anyone else does anything to 32. Noah Carmichael up on the outside wall trying to make a move down there. I believe that was him as they came off of the corner, and luckily everyone stays straight.
And that was the 49 of Chris Pervalarkis, actually, I believe, who was running side by side, 3 wide with Justin Knudsen and Henry Karloff. He just got up into the wall coming out of turn number 4 and lost a good amount of progress. Chris Pervalarkis, we mentioned him a little bit so far this season. Started 17th, currently up into 8th. So you see a lot of these guys, like I mentioned before too, who qualified, in the bottom half of the top 20, even outside of the top 20, working their way up into the top 10, such as Henry Karloff, who started 22nd, currently up in 6th, as he's locked into a battle with the 22 of Joe Armstrong.
Yeah, we've been chatting out these guys all night. I mean, Isaac Johnson's another one that's just consistently running inside the top 10. Still up in 9th, trying to hold off Nolan Sanford and Jonah Malashek right outside the top 10. But great run for some of these guys, and much needed after the seasons that they've had.
And still, as we come to lap 122, William Schmidt still out in front of the lead. Cole Freilich is actually up now into second. Bryden Lindauer falling off a little bit, but Jack Painter got around the 15, moved the 97 up into second place. So back and forth, jostling for position are some of these guys as we're starting to come down to the winding stages of this race. We see the 15 of Cole Freilich trying to get back around the 97, who the 97 is actually starting to close that gap a little bit, little by little, to William Schmidt. We have to see if the 97 is able to get up to the bumper of William Schmidt here.
It's been very back and forth. I don't know if Schmidt's making mistakes or if he's just kind of watching it, saving fuel or something, but he lets it go anywhere from 1.5 seconds down to 1 second. Then it got into 0.5 second, and now he's distanced it back out to 0.75 seconds. So Schmidt definitely paying attention. Now it's back up to 0.8, and now Freilich falling off. I got to imagine some of these guys are definitely looking at fuel and wondering if maybe they can just save to the end because, Freilich was just right there 0.5 second back, and now all of a sudden he's 1.5 seconds back battling Bryden Lindauer. So either they're making mistakes that we're not catching, or they're sitting here trying to save a little bit of fuel, but it looks like Schmidt's pretty happy with what he's doing.
Yeah, Cole Freilich, what's been plaguing him all night is sometimes on corner exit, especially through turn 3 and 4. Especially turns 3 and 4, his car is just snapping loose. And we mentioned, it is very easy for these cars to lose the grip on their front tires and just get these big snaps. And also just, being very, very loose coming off corner exit or even through the center of the corner. As you're almost kind of fighting the nose of that car, trying to get it to roll through the corner. There's another kind of snap there from Cole Freilich as he's trying to track down the 97 of Jack Painter, but it's able to, let Bryden Lindauer stay very, very close to him. We'll see here the battle between the 70 of Harry Grindel and Justin Knudsen in that red 22 machine, and right behind him is Nolan Sanford trying to get into the mix a little bit.
Yeah, Braden Movic hasn't really made a ton of ground yet to really know. He is now going past Jack Painter, but has not gotten back on the lead lap. It'll be interesting when these guys decide to pit. If they can make it until the end, then this is kind of a moot point. But if they can't, then Movic may have just made the best decision to be able to make this work because he's going to be back on the lead lap right here. He passes Schmidt. So now if he gets a yellow, he's not even in a bad spot, and he's on the freshest tires.
Yeah, because even if the yellow does come out, I mean, a lot of these leaders do have to pit, so that will put Mavik even, shuffle him a little bit higher up, maybe potentially even the top 10 if we do get a caution. I doubt we'll see that, even though we do have some pretty close racing, and we have seen some of these packs come together and produce some cautions. But if you're Mavik, if a caution comes out, no big deal. Sure, some of the leaders will obviously pit and take tires if they do have tires available to them. And that will make his job a little bit harder because at that point he is on, about a couple lap older tires. And it's been the highlight and talking point for us all night where there's a night and day difference between those fresh tires and those older tires.
I think the big question now is kind of what Schmidt does. As you see one going off into the grass is Harry Grindell.
Yeah, big snap there from Harry Grindell, able to save it, but Grindell will drop a bunch of spots and that will move him outside of the top 10, I believe. But we have cars side by side in front of them. We got Joe Armstrong in the white 22 machine as Knutson goes to his inside through 3 and 4 in that red 22 machine. And of course, Nolan Sanford right in the mix as well, as they're side by side with Joe Armstrong. But Armstrong is able to get past him and get up to the bumper of Chris Paravalarkis.
You could just see how sideways Armstrong and Sanford, where Sanford needed to go down the apron to save it. He's going to lose a couple spots out of that. Isaac Johnson moving his way back up into the top 10 because of that. But I mean, I wouldn't count out a yellow. Joe Armstrong is dead sideways off the corners doing what we saw Cole Freilich doing earlier, but much later in the run now. 20 to go. This time by Schmidt with about a 1.2 second lead over Jack Painter, nearly 2 seconds back to Cole Freilich.
And you see on your screen there momentarily was Jonah Malashak fighting for a 9th spot against Justin Knutson, which Malashak was caught up in some incidents as well, was able to work his way back up at the top 10, started 24th as well. So a great job and a great drive for the 23 of Malashak. But an update on one of our contenders for the win here tonight, and Braden Mavik, who's currently in 18th at the moment. So a lot of pace to gain, as he's not even close to the same area code of the car in front of him, that being Jackson Sims in 17th, which Sims is on the front stretch about to go into 1, and then Braden Mavik is just going through 3 and 4 at the moment. So a lot of time still to make up for that 42 machine.
And we might still have pit stops. Kendall Carpenter actually did just hit pit road on lap 120 there. So Carpenter fresh off of pit road as well. I was just looking to see why he's a lap down. There's other guys still deciding to pit, so we need to see what Schmidt and Jack Painter do. But Mavik might not be out of it quite yet.
Yeah, still the possibilities are endless. Once again, we're going to throw it down to Aiden DuPont, see if he has anything on pit road with that Kendall Carpenter pit stop, and if anybody ensued after him.
Yep, just like Elliot said, Kendall Carpenter came down at lap 120. Noah Carmichael in the 32 came down at 124, and the 21 of Steve Gibson at 128. I have not heard anything over the radio about pit strategy. Nobody calling down, saying that they're turning off of turn 4 down the pit lane. But I expect in the next 5 laps or so, I'm not sure how the guys in the majority strategy are willing to split this little green flag run. I'm not sure when they're planning on coming down pit road to refuel. I believe they still need to. So I'm going to keep an eye out, keep an ear open on the radios, and I'll let you guys know when they do come down pit road.
Appreciate it once again, our main man AD down there in pit road, making sure we're staying informed with all these pit stops. And Bryden Lindauer on your screen there with Cole Freilich in front of him, still trying to battle that 15 machine. Jack Painter not too far out in front of him as well. So really the fight is on for about second, third, and fourth place at the moment. These cars in front of you, and then of course you see the gaggle of cars being led at the moment by Chris Paravalarkis and Joe Armstrong, who are trading back and forth for 5th and 6th at the moment. And of course, Sir Henry Koloff fighting with the 33 of Isaac Johnson, and also Harry Grindell, who has recovered from going out onto the grass a couple laps ago. And then Jonah Malashak has been going back and forth a little bit with Justin Knutson for that final spot there in 10th.
Something is definitely happening because Painter has slowed all the way down to 33-second laps. Meanwhile, Schmidt is running 32.5s or quicker. So there's a lot going on here. Some guys seem like they're going to try to save it out. Other guys look like they're just going and going to pit. I'm not really sure what Schmidt's strategy is here, but he's running a half second quicker than everybody else behind him.
As the 15 is able to finally get around Jack Painter as they kind of going back and forth, and Bryden Lindauer drives all the way down almost to the apron to make the move on the 97 as he pulls away from going through 3 and 4. Coming to lap 130, as they come to lap 138. Still plenty of time, but of course, William Schmidt, 4-second lead on Bryden Lindauer at the moment and Cole Freilich and company. But now you see some of these cars that are fighting for 5th, 6th, and 7th starting to get a little bit into the fray. As Chris Pervolarkis is going to try to pull up alongside of the 15 of Cole Freilich, getting around Jack Painter. He's go way up the racetrack and kind of cut off the corner exit of that 15 car.
Yeah, there's definitely some fuel saving and some other things happening. There's some guys running way slower than what they normally would be. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on this. The only guy that's still going all out 100% is William Schmidt. He, obviously, whatever strategy he's on, is comfortable with what he's doing. Whether that means he's going to come in and snag some fuel or if he's going to try to run this out and he's comfortable saving what he's got. But a lot of these guys are backing off pace a lot.
So I want to mention we do have some extra pit stops here on our green flag run. Steven Gibson being one of them. You saw him just fly past here momentarily. He is a lap down. And like we mentioned, Aiden DuPont mentioned Noah Carmichael, Kendall Carpenter, Justin Knudsen also came down as well. So some cars here trying to make these pit stops work under green flag. And I mean, Justin Knudsen kind of has the pace to get back up into the top 5 with this current pit strategy. I believe even Kendall Carpenter can get back up in there. And also Steven Gibson as well. And then Braden Movick really hasn't been able to make much ground, currently sitting in 17th. And still trying to track down the car that's currently in 16th of Scotty Sprinkle. So the pit strategy so far not really working out for Movick, but I think for him, you just got to keep your head down.
Freilich has fallen way off, and I'm not sure if he's just letting all these guys by, but he is all the way down to 12th behind Nolan Sanford now, and his lap times have absolutely hit a brick wall. He is now running 34-second laps, and I'm not sure if this is a call to make it on fuel the rest of the way or if he hits some type of issue, but he is way off pace.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting him to come down pit road this lap or this time by, but he didn't. He stayed out. And that'll put Jackson Sims right behind him, who's currently in 13th. So some interesting things going on. Obviously, we can't entirely tell what these drivers are doing, but for some of them, it might seem like there's some gas saving going on, because I mean they are pretty tight, and you do have to make at least one more pit stop. I mean, we're down within. We only have about 7 laps to go here at Las Vegas, so it is winding down. But I mean, yeah, if you pit now, it kind of puts you in a really, really bad spot. So some of these guys are probably trying to make this little bit of gas they have left kind of last all the way down to the very end.
Well, that's the thing. It wouldn't have if they would have pit, at a normal point and split this run in half. But I guess the assumption is these guys don't have their tires anymore because they used them on the last pit stop that they made. So for guys like Movick and Gibson who didn't use the tires early on in the race, they had a little bit of an extra advantage there. Kendall Carpenter as well, which Carpenter I thought was the one that definitely didn't have tires. But now you've got Joe Armstrong's up in second. Schmidt is still driving way harder than anybody else. And I believe that the 15 of Cole Freilich is actually clutching in the corners to try to make this work. So very interesting strategies, but we'll have to see. Closing in on 5 to go now.
Yeah, one guy who's kind of shot out of a cannon, I believe he did make a pit stop and was on fresher tires, is the 45 of Jackson Sims, as he's knocking on the front door of the top 10. You see, we will right on board with William Schmidt here, our race leader. I mean, yeah, last pitted lap 101. So I'm surprised to see him kind of been able to stretch the field this far. It might be very, very close, or be even potentially running on fumes towards the end of this race. He's doing a good job so far, you know. About 4 laps to go. He might be able to stretch it.
Yeah, I think for Schmidt, it's run as far as you can and just get a little bit of a splash. We've got Pervalarkis calling out pit road. Sims has not hit pit road, so I don't think all these guys can make it, and Schmidt might be, no, he's just very slow through the middle of the corner. I thought he was going to hit pit road, but Armstrong has now turned it up. I believe Armstrong may have been saving at the beginning of the run, and he's now starting to close in on Schmidt. This is going to be interesting. Less than 5 to go now.
Yeah, and Isaac Johnson trying to fight off Harry Grindel still. There's also a lap car. Oh, no, sorry, that's not a lap car. John Daniels trying to fight Isaac Johnson as he's trying to make the move work on the outside, and he'll get around the 33, and that is for fourth place, sorry. Then Harry Grindel is trying to follow him through around Isaac Johnson as well, and Grindel will get it done. So you lose 2 spots there for Isaac Johnson, who's been having a spectacular drive as he actually will dive onto pit road this time by.
Yeah, these guys all needed to pit when Muvik pitted. I mean, that would have been the call. If Muvik's the only guy you're racing, you all needed to pit when the other guy pits. So Schmidt is obviously dedicated to making this the rest of the way. He's going to run these last 2 laps, 2 to go this time by as he comes off of turn 4. This is his race, and everyone else behind him has got a split decision of whether they're going to pit and get that little bit of fuel only, or if they're going to run this one out. Armstrong is also dedicated. I just think Schmidt has a big enough gap that he feels comfortable enough to do this.
Yeah, Schmidt has ran away with this one. Braden Muvik, his pit strategy has not worked out at all. Down in 16th position for him. We'll see the 22 of Knudsen unlap himself. But William Schmidt, he will come to the line to take the white flag this time by here in Las Vegas, and he's looking absolutely stellar so far this evening, or this tonight, I should say. He's had to fight for a little bit, able to qualify second. He's pretty much ran away with it. Had to fight with Muvik at one point, and even Joe Armstrong. And Joe Armstrong has nothing for him, currently sitting in second place. And then coming out of turn number 4, for the last time here at Las Vegas, the 79 William Schmidt will win the Nekoworks Design World 360K here at Las Vegas.
I can't even begin to explain to you how impressive that is. I think we were all losing our minds when Joey Logano did it at Nashville. Look at all these guys running out of fuel, Brian Lindauer and others. What William Schmidt just did is insane. We were told you could do 42 laps. You could maybe stretch that another 4, but he stretched it 6 more past that. That is, I mean, he had the pace, but to save that much fuel is insane. That's very much like Joey Logano at Nashville, where nobody thought he could, and he did. And I think the biggest frustration is someone like Kendall Carpenter finishing 19th, but I mean, hats off to William Schmidt. He earned it.
I think the biggest headache, or biggest, thing is Braden Muvik. I mean, he came home to finish in 12th, but his pitch strategy did not work out at all. I mean, I thought potentially with how these pit cycles and how the gas was going to work and shake out, I thought Muvik was going to be at the end kind of fighting for a win. I thought his pitch strategy, his pit call was pretty solid, but did not work out for him. And speaking of Muvik, he'll actually pull up right next to William Schmidt and do a little bit of burnout of his own. It's going to be interesting to see when we talk to William Schmidt and talk to him about his pitch strategy. But one guy I do want to highlight, Joe Armstrong came back. John Daniels started 23rd here, Elliot. Comes home in 3rd place. So great job for the O2 of John Daniels. Jackson Sims finishes 4th, and then Chad Stearns finishes 5th. Nolan Sanford, Jonah Malashak, Henry Koloff, Tristan Baker, and Jack Painter are your top 10 here tonight at Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm impressed with Schmidt. Obviously, I just think that when it comes to what Movic did, he did the right thing. He did the safe thing. I just don't think he anticipated anybody could make it, and I think that's where I don't think he did anything wrong. He still came back and beat Cole Freilich and some of the guys that stayed out. He just how do you make up those extra 6 laps that William Schmidt made up? So,
Crazy.
we can go ahead and dive into some interviews here, but that is definitely pretty nuts.
We only have time, unfortunately, tonight to interview our race winner of William Schmidt. So just waiting for him momentarily to join us up here in the booth as Brandon Movic trying to celebrate with him, but nothing doing there. And I believe now, we'll pull up our race winner here tonight at the Nekoworks Design World 360K, William Schmidt in the 79 machine. First off, Willie, I want to say congratulations here on your win tonight at Las Vegas. And the biggest thing that me and Elliot are trying to wrap our heads around is how did you make this pitch strategy work? We both thought you were short on fuel here at the end, but you're able to stretch it out and pick up and stick with it and get the win here tonight.
Yeah, it's really funny. Under that last caution, I was in a call with Movic, and we were having our own back and forth since we were on complete opposite strategies. But I was telling him, like, there is absolutely no way I can save 6 laps of fuel. But then I was like, maybe I can because of how long the off throttle time is on the entry to the corner. I could probably just save. So almost every single lap of that final run, entering the corner, I just clutched it in, and it just was barely enough by about half a lap.
Yeah, definitely cutting it close. I mean, pitch strategy seemed to be a virtue here tonight. So going into this race, did you have any idea of what you kind of wanted to do originally, or did you have to pivot off your original plan of action for pitch strategies here tonight?
Man, the plan changed like 3 different times at the start of the race because of how often the cautions were. But yeah, I mean, I was originally hoping under that first run that, maybe the undercut would work. And, for a while it looked like it was. Then I saw everybody close it in, and I was just hoping and praying for a caution, and we got one just in time. And that basically set me on the right path from there.
Yeah, and the other thing too, coming into tonight with the points championship, you were sitting third, if I'm not mistaken, right behind Kendall Carpenter and not too far behind Cole Freilich. So how does that feel coming into this race and also picking out the win here, as that's going to close the gap potentially on Kendall Carpenter and maybe even move you into that second spot here in the points championship?
Yeah, it feels really, really good, especially since I missed 2 races at the start of the season because I was originally going to be part-time because I wasn't expecting to be a part of the championship hunt. But the races I did end up doing, I did really well, and from there I was like, maybe there's a shot. I thought it honestly was over after Dover because I did not have a strong run there, and went into tonight knowing that Vegas was probably my best shot at a win for the next couple weeks, and yeah, we just maximized.
Yeah, as I believe here, just got an update from Jack Painter, actually, that this does actually move you, in fact, second in the points championship. So heading into Rockingham, kind of what are your thoughts? As you mentioned, you're going to be part-time. Now you're in the fight for the championship. So what is your thoughts going into Rockingham?
I got to practice Rockingham. I'm not good there. But yeah, it's really cool to be in that, like I said. So, I mean, we just got to capitalize at Rockingham and, yeah, really just capitalize, do well, put in a lot of practice because I really haven't driven that track in forever. So, do what I got to do, and hopefully it ends up well.
I hope it works out for you. I mean, going from part-time to fighting for a championship, that is amazing to see. Before I let you go here tonight, is there anybody you'd like to thank for your win here at Las Vegas?
Yeah, of course. I want to thank everyone with SKS Motorsports. I want to thank Brandon Movic, even though he and I were on complete opposite strategies for the entire race. We were helping each other out when we could. Huge thanks to the field. I know the beginning of the race was a little rough, but when we were able to get those runs in, it was a lot of fun. Huge thanks to Oates and Jack for putting the league on, and huge thanks to you guys for broadcasting.
Yeah, again, and thank you as well for driving it and giving us a spectacular performance and just an exciting race, the entire OSR field as well. But congratulations once again for your victory here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you at Rockingham.
All right, thank you guys.
And that was your race winner, William Schmidt, in the Nekoworks Design World 360K at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This was a interesting race here, Elliot. I mean, we saw a lot of action packed. We saw some four-wide racing and just good racing throughout this entire field. We saw the pit strategies get a little mixy. So, just your thoughts about this race, and also too with William Schmidt able to close that points gap down, and sitting second in the championship heading into Rockingham.
Yeah, points just updated. We've got Schmidt 22 behind, Carpenter 26 behind Freilich. So a little three-car battle here, and Freilich's still comfortable, still 20 points up. He actually opened up the points lead a little bit, but with a few races left at Rockingham looming, you definitely can't be having nights like he had tonight where the strategy goes wrong and he ends up outside the top 10. You just got to finish these races out really strong and put it together, and hope that these guys don't have I wouldn't say Williams should have luck tonight. He drove the wheels off that car to make it work and played his strategy perfect. But at the end of the day, you get to capitalize on your races and finish as high up as you can. Obviously, Carpenter having a bad night tonight is good for Freilich, but it'll be interesting to see how all three of these guys tackle it. Remember, we came in here talking about Freilich and Carpenter. Didn't really say much about Schmidt, and now he's right in the middle of it. So anything could happen. He was 45 points out 2 weeks ago, and now he's right in the thick of it.
It just tells you to keep hammering away, and like you mentioned, he thought about just being part-time, and he's in the fight for the championship, so that's obviously changed his mind. And also too with missing a race, but you do have the drop race, which helps out tremendously with some of these drivers fighting for the championship. Just a great race. I mean, it's so amazing that he was able to save that much fuel to bring home the win here tonight. But we will rifle through real quick our race results before we do leave y'all here tonight. So of course, William Schmidt comes home with the win here at Las Vegas. And then Joe Armstrong, who qualified in pole, finished second here tonight. And then John Daniels in the O2, probably the biggest mover and probably the biggest exclamation point here tonight. He started 23rd, able to bring it home in third place for him. Jackson Sims in fourth. Chad Stearns, Nolan Sanford, Jonah Malashak, another guy who started 24th, able to come home in seventh. Henry Koloff started 22nd, finished 8th. Tristan Baker, which is another guy who started 27th, finishing 9th. And then Jack Painter rounding out your top 10.
Brian Lindauer, we talked about, ran up front for most of the race, ended up 11th. Braden Movic, unfortunately, wrong end of the strategy. A ton of pace tonight, though, led nearly a third of the race, ends up 12th. Cole Freilich, another guy on the opposite end of that strategy, was clutching really hard towards the end to try to make that work. Couldn't end up better than 13th tonight. Scotty Sprinkle ends up 14th. Steven Gibson, another guy running up inside the top 5 all night, ends up 15th, unfortunately for him. Harry Grindell ends up 16th. Justin Knutson, another one that was up inside the top 5, top 10, ends up 17th. Noah Carmichael, 18th. Kendall Carpenter, your guy that now is third in the points, is now 19th. Chris Pervolarkis will round out your top 20.
After Fervalarkis, you have Isaac Johnson. Unfortunate to see as he was also running basically in the top 10 towards the end of the race, but he had come home in 21st. And then Levi Wolf, Mo Perry, Gavin Newton, Max Swarling, Austin Mongold, Jeremy Cook, Kyle Benson, who had an early bow out of this race, along with Corey Lyles and Aaron Suggle as well, coming home in 30th. But that is going to do it here tonight for the Nekoworks Design World 360K at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Make sure to tune back in here to Split Second Broadcasting for the GLR Truck Series on Tuesday night. You don't want to miss that action, as they're also in the thick of their playoffs as well. And they also, as well, will head to Rockingham alongside with the OSRL next Thursday. But for Evan Snyder, Elliot Henderson, Aiden DuPont, and of course our lovely producer, Jeff Johnson, saying so long and good night from Las Vegas. Everybody have a good one.
Learn nothing was blocking me. I was the problem, the only one stopping me. I didn't like it, I had to refocus. Now I'm devoted, I know where I'm going. Controlling emotions, I'm owning the moment. In order to get it, see, you gotta want it. If I was make a living break. Confessions over these 808s. Don't sleep on the key, better stay away. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'ma be the best. Came from the endless lane, walk games, bitch with the chest. beating on my chest, trying to get my rest. Watch me while I flex. Every win is a blessing, and every L is a lesson. So when I run into rejection, I know it's only redirection. I see the blessings right beside me. The chances of quitting are likely. I do it like I'm in my Nikes. Don't make excuses, they never excite me. Quitting was never an option.